Nintendo has been no stranger to the good, the bad, and the ugly in terms of controller design. I would rather eat soup while it's still a little hotter than I like than play a modern AAA game with a Nintendo 64 controller. But most recently, Nintendo has produced a controller that seems so close to perfection in many ways, but barely fails to hit the proper marks. And clearly, everyone knows what that controller is: the Nintendo Labo Fishing Rod. The Nintendo Switch Joycons. Clearly, the most obvious problem with the controllers is drift. I know about it, you know about it, and I wouldn't be surprised if your grandma knew about it. I really don't need to spend too much time on drift because everyone knows about it, which makes it absurd why Nintendo hasn't fixed it with the newer Joy-Cons, or even on their console with unremovable controllers. All the more insane is that hobbyists have found simple solutions to the problem. Is it just that they want to sell more controllers? Yes and no. It could have started as a financially lucky mistake with the hardware. But then they started getting sued and had to offer free repairs for every Joy-Con experiencing drift. By then, I would have expected them to fix it. But if it really was just to profit more, I wouldn't be surprised if it was only a small loss, since most people don't want to or don't even know of or how to send controllers in to be repaired. Ultimately, it's inexcusable to have controller drift, and I would be sorely ashamed to see anyone defending the $100 billion company for selling $80 controllers that are defective after a few months. But like I said, I don't want to spend too long on that because there happens to be a few more issues that keep the Joy-Cons 1.0 from being perfect. Now, this issue I'm going to touch on is sort of a 2-for-1 problem kind of deal. I don't speak personally, but many say the Joy-Cons are too small, aren't ergonomic enough, or smell bad. Lots of people have issues with the physical characteristics of the Joy-Cons. For one, I should say it's impossible to satisfy everyone with a one-size-fits-all controller. People are built different like that, and from what I've learned, the Pro Controller does fix the size problem for most people. But I would say more egregious than size is the ergonomics. A good controller just melts in the hand. When you're playing the Switch handheld, how do you hold it? Curved in fingers, flat across the back, or some other way. I find myself most often fidgeting between curved fingers or flat, and neither is comfortable. They're not painful, just not melting butter. I should say that this was really never a massive issue for me. I've used other controllers before and they were all fine, never noticeably better than the Switch, but that was all until I used what I can confidently say is the best controller I've used: the Steam Deck. Aside from its joystick texture, which has too little traction for my liking, the Steam Deck fits all my needs for a good controller. I never need to adjust my hands when playing, and every button has perfect tactility. If there's something I want for a Joy-Con 2.0, it would be a thick grip for my hands and nice big buttons. But that shows the bonus problem with this issue. Now, scratch what I said about the size problem not being as important, because it is. One of the biggest problems with the Joy-Cons is the fact that they need to be used in 3 different ways. Normally in handheld mode, on their sides for multiplayer, and the worst way, used by children. Each of these 3 introduce big issues. First off, using Joy-Cons in a traditional handheld or together with the grip. If we were to have grips built into the controller, it might introduce some issues for the Joy-Con grip accessory, but that could be fixed with some clever engineering. The main issue with the Joy-Cons as a whole is the size and how it constrains the console. Due to the detachability, the console has to scale with the controller, and this includes the screen. You could always slightly increase the screen size by removing more of the bezels, but from there you can't go any bigger, unless you want the console to look silly with smaller controllers. People always say bigger is better, and if the Switch 2 plans to support the Switch Joy-Cons, then it's stuck with a screen less than even 8 inches. This is less of a fault of the Joy-Cons themselves, but more with the gimmick as a whole, but I suppose I wish the controllers were just a little bigger. Which leads me to my second issue: children. Whether you'd like to face it or not, Nintendo is a company that makes games for children first and foremost. That doesn't mean Luigi shouldn't be loved by everyone, or that they don't make games equally targeted for the more hardcore, but Nintendo isn't going to blacklist kids from being able to access their games, and that includes making the controller itself accessible to them. Which means they aren't making a Joy-Con to fit the hands of a fully grown gorilla. they're making peanuts that'll fit in Diddy Kong's pathetic little baby hands. And even then, they're still too big for some of my nephews. So if Nintendo tries to satisfy the hardcore, it might leave little Jerry behind. And the only thing worse than angry gamers is angry parents. So now the third way to use Joy-Cons, and the issues that come with it. Horizontally. This was honestly a really clever design on Nintendo's part. It's a great use of the splitting controllers and makes multiplayer a breeze since every set of Joy-Cons you buy includes 2 controllers. It's also another great way for little Jerry to play his favorite game, New Super Mario Bros. U Deluxe, a game which I might add, out of the 4 main Mario franchises, Mario Kart, Smash, 3D Mario, and 2D Mario, was the lowest selling on the Switch. And ignoring Super Mario Bros. For being the ultimate pack-in game for NES, the only game of these franchises to sell less than any 2D Mario was Mario Odyssey, which still beat New Super Mario Bros. U, with the sales of Wii U and Switch combined. Where was I? Oh, little Jerry. Splitting controllers is a really nice feature, but it becomes less nice when you have a big bump on the bottom of it from the grip. So, remove the grip then. Well, it's still just a little Snickers bar. Oh well. Something that has always perplexed me is one feature everybody forgot the Joy-Cons had. I'll let you guess it. Out of the 4,500 or so games on Switch, only about 15 games use it, and 5 of them are shovelware. The only game I've used it in was the 1-2 Switch eating competition game. That's right, it's the IR camera. How long did that take you? Really, out of all the games known to use it, the best use case is Nintendo Labo, since it allows the cardboard to do absolutely crazy things, and the most unique case was Ring Fit Adventure as a heart rate monitor. However, I think the Switch 2 could easily go without this unusual gimmick, since Labo is pretty much dead, and as cool as it's used in Ring Fit, it's certainly not a necessity for Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land 2. I have no clue how much this added to the cost of the Joy-Cons, but overall, it seems like an unnecessary addition. Here's where I wanted to talk about another addition I felt was pointless, or at least underused. That is HD Rumble. But apparently, there are some notable uses, like in Mario Odyssey or in Skyrim, and probably several others, but I don't remember a moment when I have been shocked or amazed at the immersion of the Rumble. So it could entirely just be a me problem, or maybe not. The PS5 DualSense has a similar rumble feature, so I can't say removing it would be a good idea. I just think it needs to be used better. One last problem with Joy-Cons is the overall build quality. This relates to the drift, but many things as a whole. For example, in the past, I've noticed with my Joy-Cons that they irregularly disconnect from the Switch in the middle of a game, making me have to spam the bumpers to get it back as quick as possible. Around launch especially, many were vocal about this problem, but besides from being a slight annoyance once in a blue moon, it was never really an issue for me. That was until I sent in my Joy-Cons to repair the drift. Ever since I got them back, I noticed that thankfully the drift was gone, but I feel something far more annoying has taken its place. Now, my Joy-Cons disconnect all the time, and it's never the same controller, and it's always random because I play right next to my console. Any small annoyances are disappointing for an $80 pair of controllers, but when these annoyances become active grievances, I don't know, it's scummy. So Nintendo plans to release a Switch successor next year, and whether or not it keeps the Switch handheld portable format, which it will, Nintendo would absolutely go into the gutter without a hybrid system in today's ecosystem. The primary set of controllers for this next console needs a few things. Most of all, no drift. I don't know what will happen to Nintendo if they don't fix the drift. I don't think we could ever really see a boycott to the system, and lawsuits can only do so much. Ideally, the company just does the right thing. Now, something new I would like to see is the return of analog triggers. Analog has always felt better for triggers, and with the PS5, it shows even more potential with adaptive triggers. From there, I want Nintendo to just keep experimenting. The main set of controllers should never differ too much from the norm if Nintendo wants to keep the third parties, but I do want to see something new, because there's no reason to say our current controller layout is the best. But you know, in 10 years, Nintendo will probably throw this all into the drain for a VR headset controlled exclusively by SniffoVision controllers. We could always find new ways to make it better. Let's just not make it worse first. The Joy-Cons aren't awful. They're not unusable, they're just not excellent. Many might disagree, that's up to you. But if you like this video, consider subscribing, it's free, or joining my memberships, not free. And make sure to scrub behind your ears, and as always, keep cool. Bye!